For the longest time, I've always known that I could change my life through self-improvement. I've always known that I have the ability to do it, I have the tools to do it, even the mentality to achieve it. I knew that it was deep down within me, and I had that ability to completely change my life. I remember being 14, 15, watching videos on how to completely change my physique, on how to change my life, watching motivational videos, right? Dreaming things for myself in the future. I've always known that, if I aim for the stars, I'll land on the moon or something like that. Like I've always known I could achieve things, but I just couldn't get myself to stick long enough to self-improvement to actually see serious results. Right? I could be consistent for like 2 weeks. I remember like I'd start some new thing, I'd start some new gym program, I'd start being motivated to completely change my life and focus on. I remember I became really obsessed with football. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a professional athlete, right? And I did like some YouTube before, and like I've gone on so many like endeavors, right? And I would be consistent for like 2 weeks if I did really well. But eventually I would fall off. Like I would use my willpower to really push myself through and be like, I can achieve this. And then I'd fall off. And I remember watching a video from Hamza from like 2022, 2023, because I did start self-improvement again properly in 2021. Like that's when I completely changed my physique and I started getting onto like making content and just really being consistently on self-improvement over a long period of time, right? Because you have people who get onto self-improvement for like 2 weeks. Excuse me. You get people that get onto self-improvement for like 2 weeks to like a month, and then they fall off the wagon and they don't think about it for like a year or whatever it is. Then you have those people who they do it, they always thinking about self-improvement. They'll do it for like 2 weeks to like a month, and then they'll fall off, and then they'll come back again like 2 weeks later or like a week later. It's like, oh, I fell off on this Wednesday. It's like, okay, Monday I'm gonna be back, right? So I got to the point where I was that guy who was consistently on it, where it's like, oh, I've fallen off a bit on like Thursday or whatever, and I'm back. Like Monday I'm back. Like it was over a long period of time. Like I was on self-improvement. So I was, if you expanded the timeline, you can see that I was actually really improving my life seriously. But again, I still wasn't consistent enough to the point where I'm consistent with my habits, like my eating habits, my training habits, working on my business, whatever it was, over a long period of time. And I remember watching a video from Hamza, I think it was last year, 2022, and he was speaking about how you don't want to like feel that there are two types of people, right? Or two types of experiences you can have when you're on self-improvement, right? And you can have one where it feels like you're swimming upstream, right? You feel like you're working really hard, like you're waking up in the morning and it's taking all this willpower to get yourself out of bed just to go and like get your workout in or whatever it is. Then there's the other guy who it feels like he's swimming downstream. It feels like the stream is working with him, like everything is just working with him, and like it's obviously we all want to be the second guy, right? And for me, like my experiences that I was having, I didn't know it at the time, but according to psychocybernetics, I was experiencing what's called the snapback effect. And I remember when I was listening to this audiobook earlier this year, it just made total sense to me. The moment I heard the snapback effect, I was like, that is precisely what I've been experiencing, right? You imagine like an elastic band, like you're really trying to push, right? For like 2 weeks, you're pushing, like really trying to improve yourself, and then whatever happens, just go back to where you were, right? Your brain just takes you, and yeah, what was explained in the book is that your brain will always take you back to who it believes you are, right? So I spoke briefly about how like 2022, 2023, I was kind of like struggling a lot with self-improvement. I was still consistent with like uploading like content for like most of 2022, also with staying in shape for most of 2022, but like other things like studying or working on like my business or whatever it was, that wasn't going well, right? And 2023, like last year, was just bad. I mean, again, all things considered, I still came out of it well. I still passed like a really difficult honors year, but like it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. And I was just searching for it because my issue was that I knew I knew I could change my life through self-improvement. I knew I had the guts to do it. I wanted to do it. Every day I'd wake up thinking like, I really want to do this, right? But I just couldn't get myself to do it. I was burnt out. In terms of studying, I was completely burnt out. And just in life, like I just couldn't get myself consistent. Then I knew when I heard like Hamza speak about the upstream thing versus swimming downstream, I knew it had to do with identity change. I knew that if you could change your identity, right? To be someone who does the good habits, who lives a certain kind of lifestyle, it becomes so much easier. It becomes like you're swimming downstream rather than swimming upstream. Because the issue is when you're swimming upstream, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much willpower you have, you're only going to get so far before the tide just washes you back, right? Before the stream pushes you back because you're just tired. You're not going to fight the stream, right? It's water, right? It doesn't get tired. You're going to get tired, right? Whereas if you're swimming downstream, it's magnificent because everything's working with you. So I knew identity changes the way, but I didn't know how to change my identity. Like, I really didn't know how to. Like, I know, and it's like, oh, you have to believe that you're this type of person, whatever. And it's like, okay, I believe I'm the type of person to do this, but nothing would change, right? Then I found psychocybernetics, right? And it explained everything from start to finish, and it explained behavioral psychology, right? The things that actually cause people to change their behavior, right? And this is where we start to get into the real, into the nitty gritty of it, the meat of what it actually takes to change your life. Right, and the first thing I learned that really stood out is that your subconscious brain is what determines your actions, not your conscious brain, right? So you think about all those times you've told yourself, okay, tomorrow I need to stop eating crap, right? I need to start eating properly, right? I can't afford to even be buying all this takeout. Like, it's wasting my money. It's making me fatter. It's making me miserable the next morning. I need to stop. Logically, I need to stop. Next day comes, what happens? You do the same thing again, right? And you think to yourself, what the hell just happened, right? But the issue is that you try to attack your situation with logic versus emotion, right? And you're thinking logic versus emotion, what the flip does that have to do with it, right? Your conscious brain, your prefrontal cortex, that's logic. That's the thing that thinks, right? Critical thinking skills are applied. Logically, these things should be done. But your prefrontal cortex is useless. It's absolutely useless without the support of your subconscious brain, right? Your subconscious brain, I know Hamza would call it the lizard brain. I think it's also called the amygdala. Your animal brain, right? The brain that's very primal, right? You see food, you want to eat it, right? I don't have to speak about other things, but you know what I mean. Like your primal instincts, right? That just make you do what you feel like doing. I'm tired, I need to sleep. I'm thirsty, I need to go drink water. That thing, right? That's what determines your actions. That determines 95% of your actions, your subconscious brain. 5% of your prefrontal cortex, right? It's not going to change you. You're not going to change your life by telling yourself, oh, it's good for me to change my life, right? I'm going to go to the gym because it's good for me to go to the gym, and you list all these reasons why you should do it, right? If you do list reasons that affect like your emotional state, then you're getting somewhere, right? If you have like people always say find your why, right? It's not because, oh, logically like your why is going to tell you, oh, I need to do this, right? But the idea behind finding your why is that it's going to hit you emotionally, and that's going to make change, right? Like, I still remember Hamza has always spoken about, like, you need to have an FTE, which is like an F this event, right? So something bad really happens in your life, like a canon event, basically. Something bad happens in your life that causes you to be like, nah, I've had enough, I'm going to change my life, right? People like that do change their lives because emotionally, right? Emotionally, their amygdala feels it, like, I don't want to feel this again, right? And their amygdala pushes them into it helps them into the direction that they want to go into, right? And the thing is, like, with your amygdala, like, everything just works with you. That's the upstream, right? That's the downstream we're speaking about. We're speaking about upstream versus downstream earlier. Your amygdala is the stream. It's the stream. The unconscious brain is the stream. You want to work with it, you don't want to work against it. If you work against it, you're going to lose. You will lose. Like I said, picture the upstream thing, you're going to get tired, right? Because your amygdala has been evolved. It's evolved, dude, for like 10,000 years. You're not fighting it. You're not fighting it with a little 5% of your prefrontal cortex, a tiny bit, bro. You're not winning that fight, right? So, the question comes to you, how do you change your subconscious brain? How do you get it to work with you, right? To push you in the direction you want to go to? And the answer to that is visualizations. Yes, you got the answer. The answer is visualizations. You finally got, like, if you're anything like me, I remember when I would watch Hamza and he'd speak about like visualizations, meditation, gratitude journaling. Like those are things I would never do. Like I was like, why do I need to do this? And they feel like they're wishy-washy. They don't change anything, right? It's whatever. But I'd always need a reason to do things, right? So I remember when he spoke about, like, I think the day I started doing meditation was when he spoke about how it actually improves your focus and your ability to actually work. And it's like, okay, I see a direct line between meditation and improving my life. And it's like, okay, I'll start doing meditation. Then gratitude journaling, he spoke about how if you journal or you speak about 3 things that you're grateful for every day, that increases like your happiness. Let's say that was enough incentive for me to start doing it, right? And then I started getting into it, and journaling was just a good way for me to think my thoughts out and plan my life out, right? Visualizations, never done them. Like, yes, okay, I've always dreamt about like my future life and everything I want. I've always done that, but that's not like visualizations. Visualizations are like, they're very vivid. You're sitting there, you're deliberately thinking, picturing yourself doing certain things, living a certain life. I've never done those until I read this book, and it's like, oh, if you want to change your life, you need to change your identity. If you want to change your identity, you need to change your subconscious brain. If you want to change your subconscious brain, you do it through visualizations. Now, why do visualizations work to change your subconscious brain, right? It's like you're just picturing things, right? The reason this works, right, and this is behavioral psychology again. Like I said, this book is magnificent. You should go read Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. I think that's his name, right? The reason it works is that your brain cannot tell the difference between a real life experience and an imagined experience, right? So picture like, okay, I know the example that Hamza gave. It's a crude example, but I'm gonna use it too, right? Like, picture like when you're watching corn, right? Or actually, no, when you're watching corn, when you're just doing it without watching corn, and you imagine it, you're still able to finish, right? You're still able to do that, but there was nothing, like there was no girl there, that like nothing happened. It was just you and your hand and your imagination, right? But your brain can't tell the difference. It can't tell the difference between real life and what happened in your brain, right? And another example that has been used before, I was listening to it on the Chris Williamson podcast, right? Just, yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if this has to do with imagined experience. Yeah, it does actually. Yeah. So they did a study, right, on like people. I think there was some big bombing somewhere that happened. It was very traumatic, right? People died and everything, and they looked at the brains of the people who were actually at the bombing, and then the brains of the people who watched 15 minutes of news coverage about the bombing every day for like 2 weeks or whatever it was, and the people who watched the news coverage of the bombing for 15 minutes every day for 2 weeks, their brain showed more traumatic responses to that situation than the people who were actually there. And it's just incredible to think about that, right? Like, it's crazy, right? But for us, and from a self-improvement point of view, we love to hear that, right? We love to hear that because that means we can change, right? We can truly change who we want to be, right? So how do you do this? How do you use visualizations to truly change like your identity? And basically, the prescription from Dr. Maxwell Maltz was that for 21 days, every single day, you spend 30 minutes visualizing what like the ideal you would do from start to finish of the day, right? But this needs to be vivid. Like, I'm not talking like, oh, okay, it's just like a 5-second picture. You picture yourself like at the gym, right? It's like, no, you picture yourself from the moment that alarm goes off in the morning when you're supposed to get up, right? How are you feeling, right? Like you're tired, whatever it is. Well, okay, in this case, you're thinking of like the ideal version of yourself, right? The ideal version of yourself would just pop out of bed, right? It's cold, but you're imagining yourself, your ideal self, feeling the cold, right? Like your blanket is on, you're imagining him feeling the cold, but he gets up anyway. Like he just gets up because that's who he is, right? You're picturing like his feet hitting the ground. You picture him walking to the light, and you're switching on the light, and the light is flashing in his eyes, and he's going and he's changing, and he's going and brushing his teeth, like everything. Like, what does your room smell like, right? Everything, like, it's very, very, very vivid, right? The more vivid it is, the more real your brain's gonna believe it is, right? And then you picture yourself doing that. And you picture yourself doing that, changing, going to the gym, picture yourself doing the workout, you picture yourself giving it your all, picture yourself getting tired, like how are you feeling? You picture yourself like on that last rep, like you're really struggling, but you manage to dig deep and pull, right? Like you picture yourself doing like everything like very vivid, guys, very vivid. You hear like the sounds of like other guys in the gym busy grunting, or like girls talking, or whatever it is, the music in the gym, or like the TV, whatever it is. You picture everything very, very vividly, and you picture how you're feeling, right? So you do that 30 minutes. You build like a mental movie basically, and you play that every day for 30 minutes for 21 days, and you'll start to experience like the real changes. You start to experience the changes in your life that you need, that you wish to have, right? And then the other thing that I actually learned this from Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? He's also a big guy on like behavioral psychology. Like he studied like literally the same things Dr. Maxwell Maltz did. And Dr. Maxwell Maltz, his book is from like in the 19th century. Not 19th century. He's not that old. In the 20th century, right? It's quite older, but again, gold standard book, A star, S tier book, bro, top of the range. Like that book will change your life. Go read it. Or if you don't read, like if you don't like reading, you do what I did, like listen to the audiobook and take notes, right? But I'm giving you like what you need here. Go read it. Go read it. It's fantastic. But Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's someone he's on a podcast with Chris Williamson, and I was watching as well with Diary of a CEO, and he was speaking about like the things that actually change people's behavior, right? And he spoke about that thing I was speaking about earlier, where it's like, oh, I tell myself tomorrow I'm not going to eat cookies and all this crap. Like I'm gonna like eat proper food so I can actually do like it's good for me. Like I have a list of reasons for why that's good for me. Like I need to get into good shape. I can't go get McDonald's or whatever it is. Like it's too expensive. Like it's just wasting my money. Crappy food is gonna give me like pimples on my face, and it's just gonna make my appearance look bad. I'm gonna feel bad after I have it. It's just a list of bad things. Like you tell yourself, and then tomorrow comes and you go and you do it anyways, right? And he said, how you avoid that, right, or how you deal with that is that you visualize. You spend time like again. Literally with like visualizations, visualize how you act in that situation, right? Picture yourself, if you know you get cravings at like 3 p.m. Like I know for me when I was growing up, right, like my mom's always around the house, whatever, and always making sure that like, oh, you're not like for me, I can go crazy, right? Like I can eat like Oreos. I buy if I've been buying, like I'll buy like a whole thing and I'll eat it in one go. I can buy 3 of them and I'll have like 2 of them in one go, right? Like I can eat like crazy. Like I could self-control when it comes to sugar that doesn't exist with me, right? And my mom was always on my case about that, right? But I remember like whenever she'd leave the house for whatever reason, like I'd feel this urge to just go and like raid the kitchen cabinet and take and eat what I can, right? Like eat all the cookies I can, but without getting in trouble. Maybe eat like some cereal or whatever, just whatever. Like just eat as much. Like the urge would just always come there inevitably. So if you know that like, oh, at 12:15 p.m., right, I start to get this urge to just go and raid the kitchen cabinet, right? Picture yourself at 12:15 p.m. I'm getting these cravings, like literally vividly visualize yourself. I'm getting these cravings, right? But why? Okay, first of all, why do I need to not eat these cookies? List out the reasons, right? List out the reasons, and then you're picturing out the reason. You're picturing you in that situation. You're explaining the reasons to yourself why you shouldn't go raid the kitchen cabinet, right? Then you picture yourself not doing it. You picture yourself being like, no, I'm not going to do this for this reason and that reason. And here's the thing with visualization, right? You can feel it. Like you can feel it. You can feel like when you're in the moment. Like for me, if I'm picturing myself like say, yeah, okay, that's the time that I'm getting cravings to raid the kitchen cabinet. I know, right? If I'm in the moment, like I'm really trying to vividly visualize myself being like, no, I'm not going to do this because of this reason. I know when a certain reason isn't emotionally like hitting enough, like oh, I need to stay in shape. Like for example, I was just doing this the other day. I was like, oh, why would I not like I know at the office like there's always like hot chocolate and I'm always having it like all the time, like free hot chocolate. I'm always having it. I'm like, okay, what am I gonna tell myself when I get that craving to go get the hot chocolate? And I was thinking, I shouldn't get it because it's bad for me. I'm trying to like lose weight right now, and that's not gonna help me. It's gonna give me pimples on my face. I'm actually getting like a little bit of pimples. It's so annoying. But it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get more pimples on my face because of like sugar and all that crap. And I'm just in the moment when I'm visualizing, I just know in that moment that's not going to be enough, right? So I keep digging deeper, and then I'm like, okay, because I want to be a high level man. And high level men don't do that, right? And I was like, that's a sufficient enough reason. If I tell myself that in the moment, it will keep me. It will keep me from going there, right? And you picture yourself in the moment like doing that. Then, when the moment comes, like you've done step one, but there's still step two to do it. You actually need to do it, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza, what he was saying was that the reason, like in that moment, you relapse is because you've gone unconscious, right? We spoke earlier about how conscious versus unconscious brain. The unconscious brain is the emotional one, is the one that drives everything we do, right? And then the 5%, which is the prefrontal cortex, that's the one you tell yourself in advance that, oh, future me is not going to do that for this reason and that reason, right? But in this case, when you do relapse, it's because you've gone unconscious and you've gone back to default settings, right? And as we said, we want to change those default settings to be good default settings, right? So once that happens, you've gone unconscious in the moment, right? And it's fine because your brain, like changing your conscious brain, it takes time, right? But in that moment, you want to make yourself go conscious again. Now, how do you go conscious again? Meditation. Like again, you meditate on what I just said, like what you were visualizing last time, you do it again. You meditate, you're like, okay, I pictured myself in this moment not doing this for this reason and that reason, and yeah, this is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do it because I want to be a high value, I want to be a high level man, and high level men don't do this. I want to be like next level, and we don't do this, right? Something, whatever your reason is, you do that. That's how you truly change, like your. Well, I spoke about how you change your unconscious brain, but that's how you like keep yourself from relapsing at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got in terms of like the review of the book. I've got so many notes in this book. I'd say go read it. Psycho-Cybernetics, A-star book, bro. Go read it. But you guys let me know what you think of this topic in the comment section below, and make sure you hit subscribe to join the Self Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, I'll see you boys.